Hi there, this is Annie, and in search of the ultimate global street food, I'm going to take you to Egypt, and we're going to learn how to make an Egyptian koshari. Let's have a look at the ingredients right here. 2 cups of cooked macaroni, 2 cups of cooked spaghetti, half a cup of brown masoor rinsed, salt to taste, 1 cup cooked basmati rice, 1 cup cooked chickpeas drained, 1 cup oil, 1/4 cup of flour, 2 medium onions thinly sliced, 1 tablespoon ground cumin, half a teaspoon of red chili flakes, 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, 5 cloves garlic minced, 2 cups of crushed tomatoes, 2 tablespoons white wine vinegar. Egyptian koshari takes a lot of pre-preparations, like having your spaghetti ready, having your rice ready. Everything is already ready, and that's how the stands in Egypt are. The koshari stands of Egypt remind me of the chaat stands all across India. You see these little vendors with their little stands, and they have everything prepared, and all they do is they assemble their ingredients together, and depending on what you want, if you want spicy, you want sweet, you want tangy, they just put it together and personalize your food in 5 minutes. And we're going to try and attempt to do that right here. So we're going to start by, we're going to get some olive oil. Just going to let it heat up a little bit. And while it does that, what I'm going to do is the thing that I had to watch the vendor make himself. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of onions. You don't want to cut it too thin. In some flour. Every vendor may have his own technique, but this is what I saw, and I'm going to attempt doing that with you. It's almost like breading your onion. While that gets ready, so I'm going to start with some cumin seeds. Just let that cover the entire pan. And to that, I'm going to add some minced garlic. What I like about Egyptian food or Middle Eastern food is it's so similar in palate to Indian food. And being a big Indian food junkie that I am, I just found it very easy to adapt to Middle Eastern recipes and try and incorporate that in our kitchen. I just added some ginger, and to this I'm going to add the garbanzo. The garbanzo is already pre-cooked. It's really nice when you see these little stands, how they stack up the garbanzo and they stack up the lentil, and then there's pastas, 3 different kinds of pastas, and then they pick this up, and then it's almost like he's juggling everything. And at the end of it, I'm like, oh, this looks like a big mess. But when you taste it, you're like, oh my God, that guy's a genius. And that's exactly what it's like at the chaat stands or the pav bhaji stands of India. These guys are just at another level. They must be feeding so many people who are in a rush. It's really important that the garbanzo and the lentil that you've soaked and really cooked to make the lentil tender is not like dal. It's really important that your dal doesn't lose its texture. You don't want to overcook it and make it like soupy. You see how it is? It's almost like individual. I've used masoor dal. You can use any kind of dal. You can even use green masoor dal. All I'm doing is I'm flavoring the lentils. The secret of koshari is you have to use 2 kinds of spaghetti or 2 kinds of pastas, and you have to use 2 kinds of lentils, some rice and some vegetables, and you put it all together. But it's really important that you have 2 kinds of pasta and 2 kinds of lentil. So here we've taken care of that. And while it does that, I'm going to add tomatoes. I've seen some vendors like to cook the tomatoes. Some people like to eat them raw. It's really a personal choice. I'm just going to let it cook a little bit. While this is getting cooked, I'm going to work on this. First, I'm going to just toss them in the pan. This is not the way I'd make onion rings, but I'm going to try and duplicate what I saw in Egypt and just let it warm up a little bit. This looks ready, so I'm going to turn the stove off here and put this in a separate bowl, and we will assemble this later. So we're going to come back to this in about 5 minutes. You can also, you want to keep shaking this. Next thing you know, you have burnt your onion. You can also use some cilantro and garnish it. Now this is toasted. If you're trying this for the first time, just keep it on absolutely low heat, because then there's no chance of you burning it. And if you see here, my flour is still almost white, which means it's still cooking. If it was going to get brown, That's your indication that you need to turn the stove off. I'm almost getting brown in some spots. And now you're going to put this on the other side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shallow fry the onions, and I'm going to keep them aside because that's going to be the crispies that go right on top of the koshari. We're going to start with some regular oil. I recommend using regular oil to fry instead of olive oil because it just gives it a crispy edge to it. I always like to put a little oil and then add a little more, then put a big blob of oil, drop everything flies. It just works easier. If you are not sure, add your ingredients little bit. And if you're not sure, just drop one onion and see. There you go. Well, that's perfect. So now I'm going to drop all the onions in. It's almost like you're toasting it, so you want to keep moving it around because you're working with flour, and flour is going to soak the oil really quick and then it'll burn. So you want to be careful. But the fun is in watching those people on the streets. So much to learn from the streets. Different techniques on how to be efficient, how to work with all these different ingredients. It smells so good out here. I think I'm going to just season that with a little bit of salt. And I like red chili flakes, so I'm just going to drop some red chili flakes in there. This is optional, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to let it cook for about 1 minute. This is smelling so good, I would just like to eat this with brown bread. I've added just a little bit extra water. Okay, while this is cooking, I'm going to assemble my pasta, which is basically macaroni. If you don't have macaroni, pick any two pastas of your choice. We have spaghetti here. Since I've already cooked it, it's a little bit sticky. I have a trick for that. All we have to do is dribble a little bit of this magical extra virgin olive oil. Take a fork. So all you do is you dribble a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and just give it a good stir. And I wash my hands all the time. I believe that the most important ingredient you put in any of your cooking is love. So hey, just excuse my hands and let me do this right because you're going to like and appreciate how well this is going to taste. We're going to start assembling our dish now. There you go. Just look at that. Look at the brown color. I've used cornstarch here, but you can also use white flour. You can use besan, whatever you have handy. Street foods for me are inspiration. I think I have learned more watching these vendors, traveling into little villages. I think I have learned more and grown as someone who really enjoys cooking and really enjoys eating. So the important thing is you have to go out there, see something you like, come back home and experiment, and sooner or later you'll find something that you really love. The onions are perfect. What we're going to do is we're going to set them aside on a paper towel and let all the excess oil just dry out, okay? Now what I'm doing is, since I had cooked my basmati rice ahead of time, I have the same situation where I feel that it might be a little sticky. And when you have guests coming over and they are looking forward to a great meal, the last thing you want to do is give them foods that don't have the right texture. So a little bit of oil doesn't hurt. Use maybe a few drops of olive oil and already everything is smooth and falling in place. We're just going to place the rice at the bottom. Again, please feel free to experiment and try different orders. You can have the pasta first or you can have the rice first. I'm just choosing to put the rice at the bottom. Being an Indian, I like my rice. There you go. None of this has to be hot. It just has to be warm, or it can be at room temperature. It doesn't have to be scorching hot. You don't have to assemble everything. This is not a hot dish. It's almost like a salad. It looks like a mess, but actually that's the fun part. The fun is in the mess. And I'm going to make a little nest here. This is not the way they do it, but I do it just so that I have some control over how I'm going to serve my food. And on this, I'm going to fill that up. You can also serve this as a side dish because as people want, they can assemble whatever they'd like to eat. And now I'm going to add a few more red chili flakes because Egyptians like their spices also. So I'm going to just try doing that. There's red, there's white. I just love to play with food and color. There you go. I'm going to add almost all these onions because this is just amazing. This is such a treat by itself. And I'm going to save a little bit for myself for later. Here you have a perfectly beautiful to look at and delicious street food that doesn't even look like street food. I don't even know what to expect when I think street food and I look at this. But I'm going to have so much fun eating this with my girlfriends. I don't know if I'm going to have enough left for everyone. I'm going to give this a little bit of an Indian look, and I'm going to serve it with green chutney, which is so delicious, and I've made it really spicy also. And for all those of you who think it's too spicy, you can also have a serving of yogurt, and they all go really well together. Do enjoy the street food at home, but enjoy making it as much as you'll enjoy eating it because it's so worth it.